I never thought the man I swore to spend the rest of my life with would become the architect of my worst nightmare. My husband, Mark, was the epitome of a charming, successful, and loving partner. Or so I thought. The illusion shattered on a cold Tuesday evening, leaving behind a trail of blood, betrayal, and a truth so terrifying that it still keeps me awake at night. It started with my mother, Clara. Clara had been staying with us for a few weeks while recovering from major knee surgery. Mark had been unusually tense since she arrived, but I brushed it off as stress from his job at a private security firm. That evening, I was in the kitchen preparing dinner when I heard a sudden, violent crash from the living room, followed by my mother's sharp, agonizing scream. I ran into the room, my heart hammering against my ribs. What I saw froze the blood in my veins. Mark was standing over my mother, his face contorted in a rage I had never seen before. He had just thrown her against the heavy wooden coffee table. Before I could even process the horror, he grabbed her by the collar and struck her across the face, shouting, "Where is it? Where did you put it? Mark, stop," I screamed, throwing myself between them. He pushed me aside with a cold, robotic strength that didn't feel human. He looked at me, not with the eyes of the husband who kissed me goodbye that morning, but with the hollow, dead gaze of a complete stranger. Without saying another word, he snatched his coat, stormed out of the front door, and tore down the driveway in his car, leaving the tires screaming in the dark. My hands shook violently as I dialed 911. Tears blinded me as I tried to stop the bleeding from my mother's forehead. She was barely conscious, whispering something incoherent through her tears, the study, the floorboard. The paramedics arrived incredibly fast, rushing her to the hospital. I rode with her in the back of the ambulance, my mind spinning in a chaotic vacuum of confusion and betrayal. How could he do this? Why would he attack a helpless, recovering older woman? Exactly 18 minutes after the ambulance doors closed, I know this because I stared at the digital dashboard clock in a daze, my phone rang. It was an unknown, restricted number. I answered, expecting the police investigator asking for a statement. Instead, the voice on the other end was breathless, frantic, and laced with pure panic. It was Detective Miller from our local precinct. "Sarah, is this Sarah?" he asked, his voice shaking. "Yes, this is she. I'm in the ambulance with my mother. My husband." "Sarah, listen to me very carefully," Detective Miller interrupted, his tone shifting from professional to desperately pleading. "Do not go home. Do not let anyone know where you are. We are sending an armed escort to intercept your ambulance right now. Please, just listen to me." My breath caught in my throat. "What? Why? He just beat my mother. He's a coward. He ran away." "Sarah, you don't understand," the detective begged, his voice cracking. "We just ran your husband's fingerprints from the glass he dropped in your living room. The man you married is not Mark Vance. His real name is Julian Cross. He is a highly trained, armed fugitive wanted by federal authorities for the past 6 years." The world around me seemed to stop. The siren of the ambulance faded into a dull, distant hum. "What are you talking about?" I whispered, my heart dropping into my stomach. 6 years ago, Julian Cross was involved in a high-profile heist and the disappearance of a key witness, Detective Miller explained rapidly. "Your mother, Clara, she didn't just stumble upon his stress. She was a retired clerk for the federal court. She recognized his face from an old, classified case file she worked on. Years ago, she was trying to verify it. When Julian realized she knew who he was, and that she was looking for his original documents hidden in your house, he snapped." The detective paused, and I could hear the heavy breathing of a man who knew lives were on the line. "Sarah, he didn't run away to escape. He ran because he realized he left his primary emergency stash behind, and he knows your mother is the only one who can identify him to the feds. We have reason to believe he is heading to the hospital right now to finish what he started. We are begging you, when you arrive, do not enter through the main lobby. Stay with the paramedics. We have tactical units converging on the medical center as we speak. Just stay put and listen to the officers we sent." The phone call ended, leaving me in a state of absolute terror. Every shadow outside the ambulance window suddenly looked like a threat. My husband, the man I shared a bed with, the man I trusted with my life, was a monster who had built our entire marriage on a foundation of lies to hide from the law. When we arrived at the hospital, heavily armed officers met us at the bay. They rushed my mother and me into a secure, locked wing of the facility. Just 10 minutes later, the hospital went into a silent lockdown. Through the reinforced glass of the security room, I watched as police tackled a man in a medical scrub disguise near the emergency entrance. It was him, Julian, the man I knew as Mark. Today, my mother is fully recovered, and Julian is serving a life sentence without the possibility of parole. I often look back at those crucial 18 minutes. If the police hadn't called, if they hadn't begged me to listen, I would have walked right into the main lobby, straight into the arms of a killer.